A warm welcome to all my dear children. We are discussing about the motions of the earth, right? So in this motions of the earth, children, in part 1, we have discussed about the rotation and its effects. It means how the days and nights are caused due to the rotation of the earth, right? And at the end of today's class, you will be able to learn about the revolution and the causes of seasons. Okay, let's go ahead. Children, we know that the rotation causes days and nights. But what about the seasons on our planet Earth, children? Yes. Does revolution really affect the seasons too? Yes, indeed. Students, if you look at this picture carefully, the Earth is inclined in the same direction throughout its orbit, right? At how much angle? 23.5 degrees. At that angle, it is inclining continuously at its orbit. The tilt and the rotation is the reason that we have different seasons in different parts of the earth. Okay, so let's see how that happens. On June 21st, the position of the earth as seen here, students, you try to identify and the areas that receive most of the sunlight during the tilt. Okay, so as you can see, the north pole is tilted towards the sun. Have you seen this? North pole is tilted towards the sun. You will recognize that this area as the Tropic of Cancer. Yes or no? Here you can see the Tropic of Cancer. So the area which is lying around the Tropic of Cancer is the tropical area. Yes? And this area receives direct sunlight as a result, because it is very near to the equator and the direct sun rays are falling on the earth. It is getting more amount of sunlight. Okay, so it is in the summer in the northern hemisphere. So this position is what you know, children, it is the summer in the northern hemisphere. So when you receive direct sunlight on the northern hemisphere, that season is called summer season in the northern hemisphere. At the same time, in the southern hemisphere, they'll be having winter. Okay, so this position of the earth is called the summer solstice. This position of the earth is called what? Summer solstice. That means you'll have the longest day on 21st June. You'll have longest day on 21st June. The sunlight at these areas at its maximum duration this time of the year. At this time, the sunlight has maximum duration. It means the duration of day is more when compared to nights. That's why, and hence we have the longer days and shorter nights at that position. In fact, the areas beyond the Arctic Circle have daylight for 6 months at a stretch, children. It means continuously Arctic Circle receives daylight. There is no night time for 6 months. Got it? The reverse happens in the southern hemisphere, children. With less sunlight, so the days are shorter and the nights are longer. In the North Pole, the days are longer and nights are shorter. And the reverse happens in southern hemisphere. That is what you know, days are shorter and nights are longer. Fine? Now, let's follow the Earth's orbit. The Earth seems to have reached another point. The date is 22nd December. Here you can see, no? At this date, this is when the Earth receives the other end of its orbit. Before you have seen one side of the orbit. Now this is the other side of the orbit. The North Pole is facing away from the Sun now. In this position, North Pole is facing away from the Sun. So this position of the Earth is known as the winter solstice. What's that? Winter solstice. Okay. So this time, the South Pole is tilted towards the Sun. Which pole is tilted towards Sun, children? South Pole. So this area is the Tropic of Capricorn, which you can see here. This Tropic of Capricorn, which receives direct sunlight, and hence it's summer in the southern hemisphere. As you can guess, the northern hemisphere has less sunlight during this time. Northern hemisphere receives less sunlight and the southern hemisphere receives more sunlight, because the sunlight is directly falling on the Tropic of Capricorn. Got it? So during its orbit, children, there are at times when neither of the Earth's poles is inclined towards the sun. It means the Earth will not tilt it towards north side or south side. Sometimes the Earth will be still. So thus on Second, on two occasions, children, that is March 21st and September 23rd, sunlight falls directly on the equator. Where the sunlight falls? Directly on the equator, which you can see here. The red mark line is there, no? That's the equator. So there the sunlight is falling. On which days? March 21st and September 23rd. So this position of the earth is known as equinox. What's that? Equinox. On these days, the day and the nights are equal duration. The day and nights are of equal duration on earth, children. It means 12 hours day and 12 hours night. So on 23rd September, it is autumn season in the northern hemisphere and spring season in the southern hemisphere. When it is autumn season in the northern hemisphere, spring will be in the southern hemisphere. The opposite in the case of what, southern hemisphere. It means on March 21st, it is the northern hemisphere faces spring season and the southern hemisphere faces autumn season. You got it, all of you? On 23rd September, northern hemisphere will have autumn and the southern hemisphere will have spring season. But for March 21st, northern hemisphere will have spring season and the southern hemisphere will have autumn season. Children, so with this I conclude this chapter. Thank you. Have a nice day.